So, brothers, I want to talk about what it means to be consecrated. We call it consecrated life. What do we mean by this, that we are consecrated? The first thing is to realize that it's what God does with us. The Lord consecrates us to himself. He chooses you, he calls you, and he sets you apart. So that's what he does. So he chooses you. So you become aware that you are chosen, that his hand is upon you in a particular way. In Jeremiah 1:5, the Lord speaks to Jeremiah. He says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you came to birth, I consecrated you." So you become aware that that's actually the truth of your life, that the Lord knew you before you were born, and in your mother's womb, he consecrated you. You know, in Ephesians 1:3-4, it says, "Blessed be God the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who has given us every spiritual blessing in heaven in Christ." And then it says, "Before the world was made, he chose us in Christ." So before the world was made, you were chosen. So these texts actually refer to every Christian, every person who knows that they're chosen by God. It's a wonderful thing to know you're chosen, isn't it? But it's in a particular way in which they apply to those who are called to consecrated life. Because you understand that, like, from the very beginning, even from in your mother's womb, you were chosen. Like John the Baptist was chosen. You know, like Samuel was chosen. People were chosen, called, and set apart. That this is God's purpose. And when he looks upon certain people, we can't understand the mystery of his election. That's beyond our comprehension. But he chooses some for a particular path where he says, "You're mine, you belong to me." Huh? And so this is the mystery of his choice. Paul talks about that in Galatians, where he says, "Only by the grace and mercy of God was I rescued from the life that I was living as a persecutor of the Christians." It was God's election upon me when he called me and commissioned me to be a messenger to the Gentiles. It's God's mystery, isn't it? It's a mystery of God. And so how does he choose us? Well, it's all up to his election. All we can do is be very grateful to God's choice. When you know you've been chosen in a particular way. You know, everyone, of course, can experience this being chosen by God, because that's what it means to be baptized. But then in a particular way, I think we experience ourselves as having had the Lord put his hand on our heads, as it were, on our lives, and say, "You belong to me. I want you to be set apart for me in a new way," right? This is this choice of God. And he chooses the weak to confound the strong. He chooses what is wise and what is foolish in this world to confound the wise, as it says in 1 Corinthians 1:27. You know, and so it's a mystery. And I think how wonderful it is that the Lord chose me. And I can't be proud about that. I can't sort of be puffed up and all that. Rather, it's a very humbling reality, because we know that it's only by his mercy that this happens. We're all weak and broken and sinful in one way or another. But that he chooses a particular person to be consecrated to him in a radical way and to become a priest, what is that? Like, how can you explain that? It's unexplainable. But it's beautiful when you are the one who he's called. And so, yes, you know yourself as chosen. And you also know that at a particular time in your personal history, he called you. You know, for some people, it's different. Like for me, it was when I was 19 the first call that came upon me. You know, when I least expected, I was just reading a book in the park, and all of a sudden it hit me. I'm meant to be a priest. It was amazing. Sort of, why was this? That was my first call. And of course, the second call I explained to you last time was that call to the missionaries of God's love, and again to give everything away to the poor and just trust in Him, etc. Now, why did He do that? I don't know why He did that, but I'm sure He. I'm sure He did, and I'm grateful for that He's calls in this way. So He, you know, just with the first apostles, you know, when He comes to them, that they're just fishermen are sort of fixing their nets and everything, and He just simply says to them, "Follow me," and they got up and followed Him. It's really simple, isn't it? That's a really easy sort of theology of vocation. Jesus says, "Follow me," and you get up and follow Him, right? Because whatever touched those guys as they were sort of mending their nets, and this stranger, they might have seen Jesus around a little bit, this crazy preacher, but something about Jesus really attracted them. Something about Jesus really took hold of them, for them to just let go of everything and follow Him. I like to think of the love of Jesus as like a magnet attracting iron filings, you know. Of course, He doesn't take away our freedom, but the attraction is so great that it's easy to say yes. You want to follow Him. Or maybe like a lover seducing his beloved, you know. It can be a bit like that, really, where you get sort of, in a sense, seduced by the love of God, overwhelmed by it, and you find yourself drawn along. And He's a very persistent lover and desiring of the prize, right? And woos us and woos our hearts. You know, it says in Hosea, you know, He leads her out into the heart and woos her heart and speaks to her heart of love, right? That's what God's like. He's like that with us. So to know yourself as chosen by God, and to know yourself as called by Him at a particular moment in history. Chosen, of course, from all eternity. Chosen from the moment of your conception. Chosen in the mother's womb. You know, which you don't even aware as you're growing up that this was going to be your destiny. But gradually your destiny unfolds, under God's plan. And then called. You can identify certain moments when you were called, right? And one of our brothers, for example, he was ready, he was engaged, and he was almost engaged to a particular woman, and he decided he'd go on an overseas trip. And he did, and he ended up in the Holy Land. And he was on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, and meditating one day when he knew there was something different. And he spoke to a priest, and the priest said to him, "A young man like you would be called to be a priest." And it struck him. He was just thunderstruck. And he realized that was the truth. So he ended up coming back and joining the missionaries of God's love. You know, because the Lord, he had the experience of a call on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. What a good place to be called. Just like the first apostles. So however we're called, right? So chosen and called and set apart. This is the consecration specifically, being set apart for God. He's a jealous lover. He wants you for Himself exclusively, right? This is where the celibacy bit comes in, right? This is where you give up everything, right? Even being married, because you become captive to his love in a radical way, which is a spousal love. In Isaiah 62:5, it says, my beloved is mine and I'm his, right? Yeah, that whole experience of being beloved of the Lord and knowing that there's nothing else that matters but him. And so he's the love of your life. He's the treasure that you've discovered. And you joyfully give up everything to have that treasure, right? Even the joys of marriage and all that brings. Because you're now, in a sense, you're married to the Lord, really. When he says, you're mine, you belong to me. So he claims you as his own. And the beautiful text in Isaiah 3:17, I will betroth you to myself in tenderness. That's beautiful, isn't it? I'll betroth you to myself in tenderness. We have actually up on our wall here that text in French, and it's got Jesus and the beloved disciple, John, leaning on the breast of Jesus. It's an icon, a modern icon. And in French, the words are, I've betrothed you to myself in tenderness. So it's that the beloved disciple leaning against the head against the chest of Jesus, knowing his heartbeat and allowing that to be the drawing of one's life, to belong to him in this radical way, caught up in love of the Lord. And nothing else matters, really. And, when we are caught by the Lord in this way, we're not thinking about, we're losing this, we're being deprived of a wife, or deprived of having a family, or deprived of possessions or whatever. We're not even thinking that way, because love takes over, And it's for the love of the Lord that we freely give of ourselves in response to him. So to belong totally to the Lord, that's what he wants us. And there's just some people he will set apart in this way, and he'll want that person exclusively. And so your search is going to be, is that me? Lord, is it me are you really wanting me in that way, really? And will I be willing to yield to you and give myself to you in that way? Will you take hold of my life in this way? Is this what your desire is? And if that is your desire, Lord, I say yes. I'm joyful about that. I'm not sort of feeling deprived or somehow or other losing out. I'm gaining everything. I'm gaining the prize, the pearl of great price that you promised, Lord, out of great love. So that's what I mean by his action consecrating us. He's chosen you, and he's called you. Somewhere you've heard a call. It may not have been sort of someone visibly standing before you and saying, come do this. But in the quiet of your heart, you've heard the whisper of the good shepherd saying, follow me, And then you've been set apart. You know yourself as being set apart, consecrated in a radical way to be for God and for God alone. So you're no longer for the married state, but you're consecrated to the Lord for his purposes and as Paul says, for the Lord's affairs. Right? We'll talk more about what that means later. But this is like just giving an idea of the way in which the Lord works with us. So then, as a response to knowing his love, because it's all about his love, coming and experiencing his love, then we want to consecrate ourselves to him. We want to say our yes, Lord, surrender, give of myself to him unreservedly, right? Which means all of me even my sexuality. It's all yours, Lord. I surrender to you. So there's like an unconditional response of love, as a result of all that he has done. That's why we spend a lot of time looking at Jesus crucified too. Not just gazing there quizzically, but rather allowing what he has done for us to win us, to cut into our hearts and seize hold of us, so that we know that there's nothing else that really matters but to surrender to his love and to give ourselves completely to him. So as it says in Psalm 116, 12 to 13, where it's a beautiful psalm that oftentimes we might use when we're making our vows. I trusted even when I said, I'm sorely afflicted. And when I said in my alarm, no man can be trusted. And this is the text. How can I repay the Lord for his goodness to me? How can I repay the Lord for his goodness to me? The cup of salvation I will raise. I will call on the Lord's name. My vows to the Lord I will fulfill before all his people. Though precious in the eyes of the Lord is the death of his faithful. There's certainly a dying involved. There's a dying to self. There's a dying to felt needs. There's a dying to desires. There's a dying to there's a hunger that might be in you for certain fascinations and adventures of one kind or another. There's a letting go involved. How precious in the eyes of the Lord is this. I will fulfill my vows before the Lord to repay the Lord for his goodness to me. I'll raise the cup of salvation. That's like the sacrifice of my life to him. I will consecrate myself to God because he has given so much to me. So it's a response to love. So it's wrong to think about this sort of something that I'm going to sort of conjure up in some way by my own efforts or my own, sort of generous heart, but rather it's something that comes from God. It's his grace upon us, the grace of consecration. So that having known that he's loved us in such a particular and unique way, that we can only just simply respond in love to him. So I'll make the sacrifice of my whole self to the Lord. And of course, that's especially the sacrifice of my will, because our wills are stubborn and we want to do it our way and live our lives for ourselves. But the Lord's love so opens up the heart such that we actually are willing to make that sacrifice, to give ourselves, make a self-offering to the Lord. Paul in Romans 12, 1-2, encouraged us to present our bodies as a living sacrifice to God, not being governed by the ways of the world, which tells you to live your life for yourself and just get what you can out of it and make the best of your life that way, but rather, live your life for the Lord as a sacrifice of love for the Lord. And of course, if you're radically for God, you're radically for others, of course. It goes together, the two go together. So you're not feeling deprived or diminished by living a sacrificial way of life, but you're full of joyful self-giving. There's a joy in giving, huh? That's what joy means, doesn't it? Jesus first, then ourselves, and then the other, you. So it's really, I said that wrongly, actually. It's Jesus first, then others, then you. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. I think I'm getting tired. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. And then, of course, if you are consecrated to God and you actually consecrate yourself to him, he's consecrated you, you consecrate yourself to him, then it's a life given for others. It's a life given for others. It's not a life for yourself. So your consecration to God is not sort of like a private thing. Our gift of ourselves to God is not like an introverted sort of thing where I'll just go into a monastery, I'll just hide away and I'll just sort of pray. No, that's not right. Monks don't do that. No, they have it in their heart, the whole world, really. And of course, for ourselves, we're not monastic, we're actually missionary, but we have in our heart the whole world, right? the love of Jesus. So to give oneself completely to the Lord in love is to give yourself wholly to others, for the sake of other people. So it's not a selfish thing, right? So being captured by his love, we gain his heart of love for the world. So to be fully given to God means to be fully given to humanity. That's the only way. So I become then a man of God, belonging to God, but for others. A man of God for others. That's what it's about. Because the highest calling of a human being is to love. Yes, to love God. But then because we love God, we love others as well. The two go together. So we become like, as it were, an icon of love for others. Making our lives something beautiful for God, to use St. Teresa's image, that making your life something beautiful for God will be sort of like responding to his love in such a way that you're full of love for others. You're going beyond yourself. Consecrated life shines most beautifully when it's lived in love for others, especially for the poor and the broken, right? So we're not called to move away from the world, but we're called to be in the world, but not of the world, right? So we belong to the Lord, but that takes us deeply into the heart of the world. So going to the heart of the Lord in love is going to always mean going to the heart of the world, right? So knowing the fire of love in the heart of Jesus for every human person, that's what we want, huh? So that's what he will instill within you the more that you allow yourself to receive his gift of consecration, the more you respond with love by consecrating yourself to him. And be radically given to God is to be radically given to every human person. Bless his name.